son wants that pizza. You will give my son that pizza, and you will do it now!
r/prorevenge. What is up, guys? Mr. Reddit here, back with another episode of Pro Revenge Stories. r/prorevenge is one of my favorite subreddits, and I really enjoyed making this. So kick back, relax, and enjoy the show. Our first story that we'll be reading today: Don't Mess with the Fat Man, from user dfatman. After that, you take my fries, I take your cookie, from user Must Love Disney Movies. After that, try to freeze out my family? Why don't you join us? From user Pumpkin Kisses. And then we'll be finishing up with an entitled parent story from user Shubbalubba Ding Dong called Entitled Mom Demands I Give Her Hellspawn My Pizza, then claims I taunted and tried to hurt her precious little baby. Thank you so much to all of our authors submitting your stories to r/Mr. Reddit subreddit. I can't wait to read more of them in future videos. And welcome to our newest members of the Re-Army, Dennis, Amazing, and Basky. And if you're new, join the Re-Army today by subscribing for new stories from Reddit every single day. Don't mess with the fat man. So, I have a few stories, and to be honest, I'm not sure which one these would count as, so I'm just going to say it. It goes under petty or pro-revenge. Also, if you wish to credit me for this story in a video, then credit me under dfatman, if you don't mind. Also, if this is used for a video, please link me to it and I will edit this post with a link to it. A small warning. I'm dyslexic, so I have a hard time with spelling and grammar, but I try my best with spell check, but sometimes it doesn't catch everything, so sorry ahead of time. So, let me start the set of stories with a statement. I can be quite the jerk. Generally, I like to say I'm a rather nice guy, but when crossed just right, I go from a saint to Satan rather fast. So keep this in mind when I tell you my 3 moments of revenge. Now for the backstory. I have a group of friends who are generally good people. I say generally because most of us are guys, and guys can do some really stupid things. I should know. I have a few stories of my own stupidity, like Supermaning out of a window or bobsledding in a shed. But that's not what this story is about. No, these stories are about a saying among my friends, and one friend who just hasn't learned it. Yet. The saying is, don't mess with the fat man. Pretty simple saying, right? Now you may be wondering, why do we have this saying? That's easy. I'm the fat man, and I don't get payback. I get revenge. Who do I get revenge on? That's easy. Anyone stupid enough to mess with me. I grew up with being that fat kid who got picked on all the time. Well, growing up, I got fed up with it. So now I teach people why that's a bad idea. Enter Bob. Now, Bob isn't the friend in question's name in this story. I just find it a good replacement name for his. And if you're named Bob, sorry, this isn't about you. So let me set up the scene for story 1 and 2. Among my friends, I'm the software guy. I know rather a lot about the stuff running on the computer and very little about what goes in the computer, if you understand what I'm getting at. So when something is bugging out, I'm one of the first called. No big deal really for me. Here's the thing. I normally drag my laptop with me just in case I need to pull some software from a site to fix the problem or look up an error code because it either skips my memory or I haven't seen it before. Regardless of this, I have this one rule. Don't mess with my laptop if I'm fixing yours. Not a hard rule to follow, you know? Well, Bob didn't follow that rule. How do I know this? Well, after dealing with his computer, I don't remember what the problem was, but it was something I didn't need my laptop to fix. So while I was fixing it, Bob decided upon himself to change the wallpaper on my laptop to something vastly disgusting and inappropriate to show in public. I didn't find this out until I decided to go get something to eat at a restaurant. Well, I've been there before, so they know I'm only checking messages. Only to see something again, not safe for work. So after shutting my computer down fast to avoid having an issue, I began to plot my revenge. So here's what I did. I took 2 weeks to animate my revenge. So in that whole time, he thinks he got away with that. After I have it ready, I decide to stay over at my friend's house to set everything up. This is nothing out of the norm, as we tend to have LAN parties. Instead of leaving, we would all crash there. So in this case, This was a day before one, so I spent an extra day there. Now, Bob is a creature of habit, and I've seen this enough to know how he works. In the morning, Bob comes out after getting cleaned up, turns on his power, then his screen, and rapidly types in his password and walks away, all before the monitor fully wakes up. He had one of those passwords that would prevent the computer from booting up if it wasn't put in correctly. This morning, however, I was in the bathroom with a cable ran from his monitor to my laptop, and I was marrying my screen on it, which was queued up with the full window flash video. So as soon as I hear the power got turned on, thin walls were my friend that day. I hit play, so when the screen wakes up, it looks like everything is normal. Now, before I even ran the cable, I disconnected his tower completely, so it wasn't even on this whole time. Well, I'm watching the animation I made to make it look like my friend's computer was deleting itself. Again, I know I'm a jerk. So when Bob comes back with his coffee, he sees his computer being wiped out and begins to panic, to the point he's smashing his keyboard like an entitled child after having their World of Warcraft account being suspended. Now, I'm in the bathroom trying not to laugh, otherwise it would give up the goat on this. All while I hear Bob just lose his mind. So after the flash gets to the point, it requires another input. I decided to take my wireless mouse with me in my pocket. What's going on? Playing it chill like I just got done using the can.
This is some crap. My computer just deleted itself.
I'm cutting down his swearing to the bare point. Huh? Really?
Can you do anything to fix it? I mean, I don't want to lose all of my hard work.
Bob was an old school PC gamer, so I could understand what he meant, work. Sure, let's see if I can figure out the problem. Now, mind you, if you took the time to read the red screen I set up for it, it would have given up the goat right away. But Bob just saw the big bold Windows Not Found error message I put at the top. Ah, I think I see what the problem is.
Please tell me you can fix it.
He sounded generally worried at this point. Oh yeah, it's an easy fix. I click the mouse in my pocket and the screen changes to look like the old "It's safe to turn off your computer" screen, but in place of it, it just simply says, "Your computer is safe, but next time I will make it happen for real. Just remember, don't mess with the fat man again." The look on his face was priceless as he read the message. Just like all of the gears in his head just froze like something threw a wrench into the middle of it and it was stuck. He got over it after I showed him the fact his computer wasn't even plugged in and that my laptop was plugged into his monitor instead. You would think Bob would have learned his lesson after the first time. Nope. He decided to have a repeat performance, but this time got crueler. Now, this was months later, close to 6 if my memory serves me right, so it's pretty much the same kind of events. He screws with my laptop, I find out, and figure out it was him. So this time I took a hard drive that I planned to wipe anyway to make it an external hard drive and replaced his with it. So before he woke up, I already set things up and unplugged the keyboard and made it so he couldn't turn off the power in any way. I don't remember how, but I know he tried to say the least. This time, however, instead of the animation, I left a simple piece of paper saying, "You shouldn't have messed with me again," with a smiley face at the bottom. So hearing him panic was rather enjoyable. He rushed to drag me out of bed, aka the floor where I was sleeping that night, to yell and scream at me, and I do mean drag, as he didn't give me a chance to even get up. Surprisingly, he could drag about 420-pound fat man down a hallway. Regardless, the computer finished clearing out the hard drive, and he's threatening to beat the living heck out of me, mostly because I was just laughing the whole time. That's when I showed him his hard drive, the one he bought for this computer to begin with, that he had set me up. The reason I know the difference here was he decided to put a sticker on his over the information, and I began to laugh harder as he grabbed the hard drive from me and tried to put it back into his computer. Surprisingly enough, he knows how to do that. So after him replacing his hard drive back in to see his computer was just fine. You'd think after the second time he'd learn his lesson. Nope. So here's the third time he messed up. This was quite a few years later, and surprisingly enough, this wasn't dealing with a computer. About a week before this, I ended up going to Chicago and trying to do Brick's Painful Pizza Challenge, a pizza that has the chemical in peppers that makes them hot, taken from a ghost pepper. When, I will admit this, the challenge beat me rather hard. I got through 6 slices through the 8-slice pizza. Afterward, let's just say me and the bathroom were enemies for like a month. Well, I end up telling my friends the story of this challenge, and in comes Bob opening his mouth.
Oh, it can't be that hot. I bet I could handle it. You're just a wimp for heat.
His words, not mine. Personally, I love having spicy foods, just the pizza was too spicy for me. Well, earlier within this month, I had lost a bet with Bob, so I had to make him one of his favorite dishes. In this case, was ravioli. On top of that, I brought one of the remaining slices of the painful pizza, mostly to see if my friends wanted to try a bite. Well, since I was so upset at Bob for opening his mouth like that, I thought some good old revenge was in order. So when I was making the stuffing for inside the ravioli, I decided to scrape off the topping into a blender so I can make it into a paste to mix in with the stuffing. So I won't bore you with the details of how to make it. Let's just say each one had an extra kick to them. I will state this. I had to bring everything with me to cook it. Why? Because his fridge was completely empty. Even worse, his kitchen sink didn't even work. So I had to go up a flight of steps to just get water from the bathtub. Keep this in mind. So I finished making his food and bring it out. He was in mid-storytelling about something that happened at work. I didn't care. To be honest, I was more focused on my revenge. So he grabs the bowl from my hands, with no thank you by the way, and digs in. Now, he turns back to talk to his roommates at the time to tell the story, with his mouth full, because Bob will be Bob. Anyway, I'm behind him, trying not to laugh with my knuckle in my mouth as I was red in the face. Now, everyone knows when they suddenly get hit with that one bite that just gives up the goat. Let's just say, it didn't take him long to get to it. So he rushes into the kitchen to try to find some milk, but he was out, and he slammed the fridge door shut and goes to the sink. Sadly, his sink didn't work, and he even tries to pound on it, but nothing works. So he rushes past me and up the stairs to the bathroom. At this point, I'm on the floor laughing hard, and I do mean laughing hard. His roommates, after getting me to breathe, asked what did I do. Remember that story about Brick's painful pizza?
Yeah.
It took him a few seconds to realize what I did.
You didn't.
I did, I said in a higher-pitched voice. This got them laughing as we heard the tub going on. So Bob comes down and his lips are red from the bowl of food.
What did you do?
He said through heavy breaths. Remember that pizza I was talking about?
Yeah.
I put it in the food. There were a few moments of silence as his eyes were wide.
Why?
Without missing a beat, his other roommate chimed in with,
Because you messed with the fat man.
So the short version is, don't mess with a fat man. Next up we've got, you take my fries, I take your cookie. Thought I'd give you a little story of r/petty revenge regarding 2 siblings being low-grade jerks to one another. Backstory. I am the third of 4 siblings. During a period of our lives, my little brother seemed to make it his life's mission to annoy and pester the 3 oldest kids, mainly me, since I'm the closest in age to him. This story takes place during this period. We go back to the Dark Ages, aka the 2000s, when I was about 12 and little brother was about 6. Mom had us and our big sister, 16 at the time, out running errands with her since we were on summer break. At the end of our errands, our mom decided to reward us for being good, not killing each other or destroying public property, by buying us each a chocolate chip cookie from a local bakery for later, then driving through McDonald's for lunch. Mom, sis, and I each got a regular-sized meal with a sandwich, smaller fries, and a soda, and little brother got a Happy Meal with nuggets, tiny fries, a juice-like beverage, and a toy. Little brother finished his meal pretty quickly, but decided he was still hungry, so because I was the poor schmuck sitting next to him, he reached into my bag and took out my fries. Unfortunately, I was looking out the window drinking my soda when he committed Grand Theft Potato, so I couldn't stop him. And by the time I noticed what he had done, he was about 4/5 finished. He just gave me a cutesy little grin, bits of potato in his teeth. I didn't say anything, but I gave him a look that said, This isn't over by a long shot. Fast forward to when we get home. Everyone is off doing their own thing in various parts of the house. Once I made sure no one was watching, I snuck into the kitchen and went into the pantry where Mom had put our cookies in separate bags, each one with our name on it. I ate my cookie first, then ate little brother's cookie, relishing every sweet chocolatey bite of vengeance. When little brother finally decided to go have his cookie, he discovered the empty baggie in the pantry, along with me standing in the kitchen, grinning like a Disney villain. He glowered at me, then slowly got a grin of his own when he decided to play the highest card known to sibling kind, the I'm gonna tell Mom card.
Mommy, Mommy.
Both Mom and Dad, who had just gotten home from work, come into the kitchen. What is it?
OP stole my cookie.
OP, did you steal your brother's cookie? Yes. I may be a petty little crap, but I'm not about to lie to my parents. Why in the heck would you do that? I'm a major goody two-shoes, and my parents know I wouldn't pull a stunt like this without a reason. Little brother cutting me off before I can explain.
She was mad at me because I stole her fries.
As soon as he said this, little brother got this major, oh crud look on his face, realizing that he had essentially shot himself in the foot. We both got a lecture from our dad saying that taking things from your siblings is wrong, and I had to go into my room for 15 minutes to think about what I had done. Mostly I just thought about how delicious that cookie was. However, since little brother was the instigator, he lost TV and dessert privileges for a week, and whenever the family decided to watch a movie together, he'd have to go into his room for the duration of the movie. He had plenty of toys and stuff in his room to keep himself occupied, so it's not like they sent him into solitary confinement or something. Little brother and I are both adults now. I'm almost 30 and he's almost 24, and Mom still loves telling people this story at family parties and such. Next we've got, try to freeze out my family? Why don't you join us? All of this happened when I was a baby, so this story has been relayed by my mom and dad. I'll try to keep it as short as possible. It was January of 1986. Between my mom and dad, there were 3 children, all girls. My eldest sister was 4, my middle sister was 3, and I was about 6 months old. We were all living in Tennessee, and we were struggling financially, with my dad making about $5 an hour doing factory work and my mom waitressing. I know that people can raise a family on this, but this was a town of about 400 people in rural Tennessee, so money was tight. My dad was approached by my paternal grandfather, who was living with his new wife in Central California. For the sake of the story, we'll call her M. My grandfather invited my dad to come live with him and grandmother for a while and told him he could get him a job as a mechanic with the trucking company he drove for. The big 16-wheelers were the kind he drove. He said the job paid $10, which doesn't sound like a great deal today, but in 1986, that was something. My dad was a former Army sergeant who didn't receive a pension, but he did receive schooling to be a telecommunications engineer. There just wasn't a great need for them at the moment, and he was also a certified mechanic. My dad wanted to create a better world for his girls, so after cajoling my mom into accepting, she wasn't keen. They packed up the car, said goodbye to his family, and made the trip to California. I'll give a little detail at the bottom, but the move overall was a bad idea. There ended up being no mechanic job, so my dad started work as a clerk in a gas station, and my mom stayed home with grandmother and us girls. Grandmother was nice at first, but then started to get real nasty. My older sisters are from my mother's first marriage, and grandmother saw them as unwanted baggage. She would snap at them for playing too loudly and having the light on too much. Keep in mind, they are toddlers. Apparently, she was sweet to me because I was actually my father's blood and therefore was acceptable. After about a month of this, my mom told my dad it was time to leave because no one was going to treat any of her children like this. My father loves both of my sisters and agreed, but said they needed to save money to move back to Tennessee. Tax season was right around the corner, so my mom agreed that once the tax check arrived, they would be out of there. Now, what you've all been waiting for. Remember when I said M was stingy with the lights? She was also stingy with the heat. Let me tell you guys something. January in Central California gets cold. Because we all shared a room, my dad and mom would sleep in a full-sized bed. My sisters slept in sleeping bags on the floor, and I slept in a playpen that doubled as a crib. Grandmother refused to turn on the heat, so sometimes we all squished together on the bed just for warmth. My mom and dad begged grandmother to turn on the heat for the sake of us girls. She flat out refused. After a few nights of this, my dad had enough. The revenge. Remember when I said my dad was a telecom engineer? He was also very handy and crafty, a jack of all trades and a master of none, as he says. Grandmother combated the cold with an electric heated blanket. That day, while grandmother was out, my dad went into the heated element, removed the plastic casing, carefully disconnected a few wires, placed the casing back on, and put the blanket back. It looked as it was before. That night, grandmother couldn't get the blanket to work, and the heat was on in the house. My sisters were warm, and my dad didn't have to share a bed with 3 squirmy girls. I know it doesn't sound like much, but grandmother was just awful, and my dad didn't mind taking her down a peg without her knowing. We ended up leaving a few weeks later to Florida, where my dad got a job with a cable company where he could finally put his hard-earned skills to work. And now our final story of the day. Entitled mom demands I give her hellspawn my pizza, then claims I taunted and tried to hurt her precious little baby. I've been a fan of these stories for a while, and thought I'd finally post my experience with an entitled mom and entitled kid. Obligatory notice. First time posting here. Yes, English is my first language, yada yada yada. Cast. We've got entitled mom, entitled Medusa. We've got the entitled kid. And we've got me. Who do you think? And we've got the manager. Just a little background. I have Asperger's and don't do well in person-to-person situations because I have a tendency to snap when I'm in said situations. Also, I live in the deep south, and as someone who is a Norse pagan, plus someone who isn't a balls-to-the-wall religious person, I get to deal with people constantly claiming that I'm a devil worshiper or going to hell, or something along those lines. With that out of the way, it's story time. This happened a few days ago when I went to my local Cece's Pizza to get some dinner. I was standing in line, and when I had loaded a slice of pizza onto my plate, I heard this irritating, throat-clearing sound directly in my ear. Turning around to find out what had made this ungodly sound, I found myself face to face with an actual Karen. She had the whole,
"Me want speak to manager"
haircut and looked like Jabba the Hutt in drag and clown makeup. And upon seeing me, she looked down at my plate, then sneered at me.
"Excuse me, but my son wants that pizza."
Sorry, but this is my slice. As you can see, they're putting a new pizza on right now. You can get a slice from that pizza.
"No, my darling son wants that pizza. You give it to him now."
Mommy, I want the pizza.
I already told you no. I'm trying to be nice, but you're getting really annoying right now. Please leave me alone and let me eat.
"How dare you speak to me like that? You will give my son that pizza, and you will do it now."
No. Now get out of here. In retrospect, that probably was an idiotic thing to do, because I was angry, and when I get angry, I don't think straight and act irrationally in person-to-person situations. Upon hearing this, Jabba the Karen turns a shade of purple that I've only seen on grapes, and I kid you not, before screaming at me that I was, and I quote,
"A horrible man who's depriving my sweet little boy his pizza."
and that I
"Don't deserve any pizza. My angel deserves it more."
I told her to lay off, and then went to my table to eat. When I did so, however, the entitled mom stormed up to my table, entitled kid in tow, and screeched at me about how I was so rude and disrespectful to her, and that, since she was my elder, that I should give her the pizza and be grateful she didn't call the cops on me. What about no don't you get, lady? The N or the O?
"How dare you speak to me like that? I am your elder. Therefore, give my son your pizza."
No. Please leave me alone.
Mommy, I want pizza.
And like that, the little crotch goblin begins bawling his eyes out, making a scene and attracting the attention of everyone around us. Now, I'd like to point out that I don't do well in situations like this, since they make me want to snap and just freak out like some berserker or something. And the fact that I was starving wasn't making things any easier.
Now, look what you've done. You've made my baby cry. You're a horrible man.
What I did? Lady, you've been harassing me for the past 15 minutes instead of just getting a piece of pizza from the new pizza placed on the buffet line. Now get out of here. This last line got the attention of the manager, who came over to see what was going on. Upon seeing the manager, the entitled mom, Karen, gave me a condescending sneer, then turned on the waterworks when speaking to him. Ma'am, what seems to be the issue?
This man stole my son's pizza, then taunted him with it, tried to punch him, and then spat on him. I want him kicked out.
Sir, did you do what this lady claimed you did? No, she's been harassing me about a slice of pizza when she could have easily gotten a slice from the new pizza placed on the counter.
He's lying. He tried to hurt my precious little baby.
Ma'am, I can check the cameras if you like, but I have reasons to doubt he'd want to hurt.
Just look at him. He doesn't properly worship Jesus. He's a bad man.
Now, to be fair, I do look kind of threatening, since I'm 6'3", bearded, and look like a Viking. Plus, I was wearing a Gwar t-shirt with morbid imagery on it. But back to the story. The manager sighs, then goes back to the counter to look over the footage and see if entitled mom was telling the truth or not. Meanwhile, the entitled mom and entitled kid have these irritatingly smug looks on their faces, which stay on their faces until the manager comes back, exhales, and turns to the entitled mom. Ma'am, I just looked over the footage, and I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
Why?
Not only was your story completely false, but you have been harassing this man for way too long. Now leave, before I call the cops.
How dare you?
I'm not going to ask you again. Leave, or I will call the cops to remove you from the premises. The entitled mom made a bunch of blustering, gasping sounds, then glared at me and began storming towards the door. When she got to the door, the manager ran over to her and, in the most exasperated tone, says, "Just so you know, you and your son are banned from the premises for what you did to that man. Show up here again and you will be arrested." After that, the entitled mom and entitled kid storm out of the CC's, and I get to finally eat my pizza. I have to thank the manager for not only helping me out with that annoying land whale, but for apologizing for what I had to deal with and making sure I was able to enjoy my dinner. And congrats to our regenerals of the day, Dark Talon Razor, Kathy Robbins, Tamara, and Blue Shadow Wolf. That's all for now, but don't be blue. I'll be back soon with more stories for you. Remember to listen to Mr. Reddit every night, so your dreams will be wonderful like you are and bright.